Alrighty, so the attendees are starting to slow down now. So look, thank you very much everyone for joining us this afternoon. I am Dwayne. I am the Head of Education and Innovation at Schoolbox, and I'm pleased to be joined this afternoon with James Leckie, who is the Director and Chief Product Owner of Schoolbox. And obviously it's our pleasure to have you here this afternoon as we run through the latest features and developments of Schoolbox in the version 22.0. This afternoon, we're going to look at a little bit around our integrations and what we've built out in that space, but also dig a little deeper into the features that we've come about. Now, James, I know we love to look a little bit at statistics and data. So give us a rundown of what this release looks like for our customers.
Thanks, Dwayne. So just to introduce myself, for those that don't know, my role at the company is obviously the product owner, and I'm always excited to deliver the latest updates to the product to everyone, and talk you through and walk you through everything that we've worked on over the last few months. So first up, obviously, this has been a pretty quick turnaround time from the last release. It's only 119 days since we last released a major update to Schoolbox. So that's pretty fast turnaround for us. Obviously, that is our schedule. We're normally targeting 4 months, but very rarely do we actually achieve it. So pretty exciting to achieve it this time. Probably the most exciting thing here is that we've actually we'll be delivering over 24 forum feature requests in this release alone. So for those that haven't engaged in our online forums, I do encourage you to go in there and ask for your features to be delivered. We do obviously respond to those and listen to them, and they are a big part of our roadmap and our direction. And you can see that just from these stats that we've added 36 features, and of those, it's going to solve over 24 features that customers have actually asked for. The other thing I thought that was interesting was that as part of this release and part of our overall strategy to deliver more APIs, there's 14 new endpoints being added, and we'll talk about what those endpoints are a bit later. But of course, we're always trying to expand the ways that you can interact with your data and get access to your data and modify and update Schoolbox remotely. And so there's a lot more opportunities for that with this update as well.
That's awesome, James. And look, before we obviously dive into the product and look at that realm, I know we're obviously excited with one of the SIS integrations that we're bringing on board, and then some of the integration work we've been doing with Clipboard as well. So do you want to dive a little bit more into the Wonde side of things?
Sure. So with this release, we're announcing our latest SIS connectivity partner is through Wonde. So Wonde will allow us to actually connect to many SISs. So unlike our other SIS connectors, Wonde isn't actually a SIS itself, it's actually a connector. And what that means is that we can utilize Wonde to connect to the SIS for us, normalize the data, and then we access that data and bring it into Schoolbox. So it sort of simplifies the work that we need to do to connect to many SISs. It's great for schools that are perhaps looking to move into the cloud and their SIS may only be on-premise and not have any APIs available. Wonde can abstract that away and give you those APIs so that we can move Schoolbox into the cloud and continue to connect to your SIS data via the Wonde API endpoints. The other thing I think that this opens up for us is many more SIS connectivity. So if you're a school that's not got a connectivity to an existing SIS inside Schoolbox, Wonde may actually have a solution for you. So Wonde may provide additional SISs that we support. I'm not going to list them now, but there's over 35 different SISs that Wonde supports, and comparing that to our 12 SISs that we currently support, they obviously support a far greater diversity of SISs than we do. I guess at the end of the day, though, if we've got to put some context around this, it's probably not going to replace your native SIS connector. So Schoolbox directly to the SIS is probably always going to be a superior solution. There's just less moving parts. We're closer to the actual data, so we're able to better adapt that data rather than having that abstraction layer in between. But Wonde is definitely an exciting thing to add into the EdStack space. It gives a lot of flexibility to schools, and you can plug in lots of different applications to that data and share that data. I think also from just having a look at it, they also provide really good security protocols. So you can control who has access to what data right down to the field level. And I think that's a really great option to sort of secure the data that you might be sharing with other cloud applications. Just in terms of just broadly about what the Wonde connector will support, in contrast to other SIS connectors, it does support user provisioning, relationship data between students and parents, enrollments into subjects, and also timetables are all fully supported as part of the Wonde connectivity. So all of that information will flow. At the moment, there is no write back or any other things like that, but there is the opportunity with Wonde to develop more, and they are excited about the opportunities to develop write back in various different data sources. So yeah, that's something that we are excited about potentially developing. And if Wonde becomes a common connector that we're seeing in the market a lot, we'll certainly continue to build out, and we hope that they will build out the connectivity to many more SISs as well.
Yeah, and I think it's really exciting to see Wondes now coming about and being built into Schoolbox. We've obviously spoken to schools for a number of years around Wonde and the opportunities that might provide, especially smaller schools looking at coming on board or using a SIS where we may not necessarily have that native integration. So, great work on that one.
Yeah, it really is plug and play, and that's probably the nice thing about it, is that you can sort of just plug and play your data together.
Yeah, and then obviously the second big integration conversation from this release is obviously Clipboard, and expanding upon what we built with Clipboard in our previous releases, and now expanding that functionality and really becoming part of the native Schoolbox ecosystem really well.
Yeah, so the Clipboard previously was integrated with the calendar, and it provided the ability to see the fixtures in your calendar in Schoolbox, which was great to a certain point, but it had some limitations. So what we've done is we've built a much deeper integration with Clipboard, and now we've always had a fixture system inside Schoolbox. We have our own native fixture system, but it's been very challenging for schools to manage those fixtures inside Schoolbox. And Clipboard really provides the tools to your head coach and your coaching teams to better manage those fixtures. And so now with this new integration, we're able to import the fixtures from Clipboard into the Schoolbox fixture system. And this has unlocked a whole lot of new functionality that is now possible because of this integration. Just as a quick sort of think through, obviously the calendar support is still there. The fixtures will all appear in everyone's calendar, but now you can click through to those fixtures and see results and see maps and location of where the game will be. So it's a much deeper, richer integration. We're also bringing through things like we'll talk a bit about it later. I think I'll just hold on to that a bit later, but we're also providing some new features that I'll go into some more detail and demonstrate later, so you can see exactly how they work.
Yeah, awesome. And look, it's really great to see how this partner program and the work we're doing with these external partners, integrating them natively back into the system is providing a lot of value for obviously us as an organization, but obviously our customers as well. But obviously, without further ado, it's now the opportunity to jump into Schoolbox. So James, the control is yours. Please jump in. Show us what Schoolbox version 22.0 looks.
All right, excellent. So with this latest version, I'm going to start by running us through the admin system. I always like to start in the admin system. It's where things are sort of turned on and off for the new features. So it's good to start with the admin features. So let's quickly have a run through of some of the new features that we can find in the admin system. First up, I just wanted to announce, and actually these are already available in your current releases now, but I just wanted to announce properly the arrival of the Victorian and the New South Wales curriculum packages. So both those packages are now available to install into your instances to allow you to start mapping to the curriculum. And this is a really big area of development for us. Obviously, we want to add as many curriculums as we can, and then we want to build out our curriculum mapping and curriculum reporting functionality. So that's a big effort from our side to sort of deliver more insights into the curriculum for you. And this is a big part of that, is delivering those packages. So just be aware that those are now available as of today. One of the new features available, and this sort of stems from a bigger topic, which I might touch on just before I go into that. As part of our new SIS connections, Wonde is one of those, Compass is another. We're now starting to support more sophisticated schedules coming from the SIS. And previously we would have called those timetables and they fitted on a nice grid. But we're finding more and more schools are having more complex schedules. They're having different setups for different days. They're having different, they might have a swimming carnival one day, and then they might have outdoor ed, and then they might have standard subjects on the next day. And the old timetable wasn't able to support all of that. So we've started building out the timetable has been migrated into a new style, which we call schedules. And schedules provide more flexibility. They don't need to be on a grid anymore. You can have any layout you like. And that allows us to support more SISs and the data that SISs are providing to us. But one of the things that we found challenging with that is we needed ways to represent that information in new views. So as of this release on the dashboard, you can now actually add multiple calendar components to your dashboards, and you can configure these with different sources of information and different filters. So for example, I might call this a timetable, and I might link this to my external databases timetable. So that'll provide just that information. And I can make that a 7-day or a 5-day outlook. So we can start to customize and configure the layouts and setups of these. And so you can think about, perhaps you might want to have a special calendar just for upcoming sort of major community events or excursions. Those types of things can be now put into their own filter feed and shared on a dashboard. And this can be used for any user type or any role type, of course. So you can have different calendar setups for parents to staff and of course students. So you've got a lot more flexibility there with how you're configuring your calendar feeds. And you can sort of, as always with Schoolbox, you're bringing all of the different calendar sources together into one place. And then now with this new feature, you can now put different calendar feeds into different blocks on your dashboard and filter them appropriately so that only the relevant information is showing on that dashboard. So just a bit more flexibility on how you present that information to your users. Moving on now, I'm just going to quickly touch on some changes to the user provisioning system. The user provisioning system was we had a challenge there where we were unable to deal with information that was coming in lists from the SIS. A common case was a list of roles that someone was in, a list of departments, or maybe a list of campuses that someone was in. And that data was coming in comma separated or something like that from the SIS into a field in the user provisioning system. And there was no way to really pull out that list of data and analyze it. With the latest update, you can now add wildcards to your matching sets. And what this will do is if there's anything on the either side of senior and junior, this rule will still match. So if you can imagine, we got the campus code and it was a list of senior, junior, comma separated or something separated by anything really. You can now make sure that they go into both of those campuses. Previously, you would have had to do something like this, which of course, and you can imagine how quickly that would get out of control when there was a lot of options there. So now you just put wildcards and that will match as well. So much simpler to deal with those lists coming in via user management, the user provisioning system. All right, next up, probably pretty exciting and pretty major update for this one is the introduction of the summative reporting features into Schoolbox. We know that continuous reporting's been where we've focused and it's been great and lots of schools really love the idea of continuous reporting, but many schools still want to be able to commit a PDF or a final record of the students' learning to their SIS or to their file store. So they want to keep a PDF or a document record of the student's achievement and academic achievement. And sometimes there's compliance pieces around that, or perhaps just a record keeping perspective, or even perhaps the student wants to be able to take that statement and take it to university or off to another institution. So with that in mind, we've developed a new tool for exporting reports. Now, we don't have everything ready for this webinar, so I'm going to give you the brief notes and sort of give you a demonstration of what the final product will look like. But from today, we can see that when we go to export the reports, we can firstly select the academic periods that we want to export from. Now, if you've got multiple terms, you can actually put terms together. You can do a full year report, or you could do just a semester. You can select multiple academic reports here, so academic periods. So you can sort of mix and match the start and end date of your particular report period. We can then select the students that we wish to include in the batch run. So we can do a whole year level, we can do campuses, or if we just want to do a test run or a one-off, we can do it for a single student as well. So we've got flexibility there. What will actually happen is when we do a batch run like this, all of year 10, we're going to download a zip file that contains every student with a PDF document named with their synergetic ID or their external ID, so that they can be uploaded into your SIS relatively easily. We can configure what's included on the report. So we can include a summary page. So you can think of this as like a sort of a statement. We can have in the summary page, it'll show a list of subjects. We can turn on whether we want to show overall grades for those subjects or not. We can choose what types of assessments we want to show on this page. Or we might have just an observation task here. So I might just include the observations. I might include the comments that are included with those observations. And maybe there's a rubric, a learning behaviors rubric or something along those lines that I'll include as well. And then finally, as we go down to include class, we can include a page for each class in the report. So if we want to get more detailed information, here we might include each summative task, and we're then going to show the grades and maybe show the rubrics as well. So that's how we configure our report. And of course, we click the download zip button. That will kick off. It's not working right now. That'll kick off the batch run. It will then send me a notification once that is complete. And that will be a download zip file that I can download, as I mentioned before. People are going to ask me what's it going to look like. So I prepared one a bit earlier of a bit of a sample of having run it on our demo data. The first page here is an example of the sort of the statement. We have the class name, the overall grade for the class, and then we have a list of assessments that are in that. Oops, sorry. Lost my way now. I'll come back to that in a sec. There we go. Don't click on the page, it's not clickable. So we got the list of assessments, and then on the second page, we have a class. In this case, it's 9A English, and then a list of assessments, comments, and grades associated with that class. There's a bit of styling to go onto this. We're going to include things like school logo. There's going to be the ability to also add a message, so some text and introduction text. It might be your principal's message or something on those lines. But the idea is this is quite a simple solution to get a very quick document out of Schoolbox that represents your, I guess, academic performance into a PDF document. It's not going to solve all of the school's reporting problems. There may be more challenging or more difficult reporting requirements needed. And we've got other solutions as well. So this needs to be looked at in the context that this is one of three other solutions. And the other solutions is that as part of this update, we're going to be announcing our Assessments API, which will give you full access to all of the assessments and feedback for students. You'll be able to filter that data and extract that data and take it and put it in your own reporting system. And also, of course, we've got the SIS write back support as well. So for SISs that we do support write back into, this data can also be written back into your SIS. As part of that Assessments API, we expect some SISs will also build connectors to our Assessments API and consume the data directly into the SIS using our API, so that you can do your reporting and complete your reporting inside your SIS as well. So there'll be a range of solutions available for your reporting, depending on what requirements you need. Ultimately, we want to make sure that you get the data as quickly and easily as possible, and it's as simple for you to do that reporting activity as possible. That's always our goal, is to make this as time sort of quick as possible for you to complete. All right, let's move now on to the next feature, which will be QR codes. So as part of looking at the junior school project that we've been working on to sort of better engage the younger students in the school, with part of our research identified that younger students sometimes struggle remembering passwords and going through the login process into Schoolbox. And that can really sort of, I guess, inhibit the engagement that we have with those younger students. So the QR code solution is designed to help you in the classroom get students logged in as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to run through what that looks like. Firstly, QR codes need to be enabled per year level. We very much expect that this is not something you want to turn on across the entire school. It really is designed just for those younger years. It's not a secure login system. It should be only enabled into those younger years. By enabling it on grade 3 here, I've done two things. Firstly, I've limited it to only be available for year 3 students. And also I've enabled it so teachers of year 3 subjects or classes are able to use the feature. So this has actually done two things by turning it on for year 3. Now, as a teacher, I'm going to log in and visit one of my year 3 class pages. And under the 3-dot menu, I now have an option, generate login codes. So I can come in here and generate some QR codes for these students. Before I do that, I can select some options about where they're going to land. So I can send them to the profile screen if I want them to perhaps use the learning moments for evidence capture. I might want to send them to the class page so that they can get access to their homework quickly. You may actually do a couple of QR codes. You might give them one for each location so they can choose which one they want to go to when they scan it. I'm going to start with the profile one here. I can set the expiry on how long this QR code will be valid. And after that period, it will expire automatically. And then I just click generate codes and it will generate some QR codes for me. The next button along allows me to print those codes. So I can send them to a printer and print them all out, cut them out on an A4 piece of paper and perhaps put them on a lanyard or stick them on their desks. However the teacher would like to distribute them, they're able to distribute those codes so students have got access to them. Those codes, of course, we've all been familiar with QR codes during COVID, so you pretty much would understand how they work, but the students will scan those with a mobile device, either an iPad or a phone or a laptop with a webcam, and it will automatically launch their browser, log them in and take them to the correct page. Each of those codes is unique for each student, so it'll actually log the student in as that student into the system. Moving on now to, actually before I move on, because I'm going to get a lot of questions about the security of these, and I want to restate that QR codes inherently are fundamentally sort of an insecure method of authentication. They are a single factor, and that factor is something you own. And so just be aware of that when you are using them. That's one of the reasons why we have short expiries on them, because they can get lost. They can get misplaced. They can be used by other students. So we want to keep them quite limited in their risk profile. So moving on, one of the things that we did think about, though, is that if they do happen to get misplaced or lost, or perhaps you know of a student's QR code's been abused because someone else has got a hold of it, you are able to go into the admin system And through the bulk user modifier screen here, you can actually filter to students that have a QR code token, and we can tick which students we want to edit and modify those and revoke that token. So now those tokens will no longer work. And so we've sort of disabled them, I guess, which is a good way, because it is something that the students have. It's sort of like taking it back again without physically having to find it. So we have revoked that QR token from working now. Also, while I'm here, you'll notice that the bulk modifier has been updated. It's got a new layout, a new look and feel. It's much more sort of user-friendly. You can search and sort on lots of different attributes now, and search for records as well. All right, where are we up to? We're up to the pastoral system now. Sort of needing to move pretty quickly, I'm sorry, because I don't have a lot of time, but just quickly going through the pastoral system. Firstly, as part of this upgrade, we have added the ability for students to access the pastoral system. Now, this is disabled by default. It will be off by default. You'll need to turn this on in order to enable student access to pastoral. When I say student access to pastoral, that doesn't mean that students just automatically get access to all pastoral records. They still need to be given visibility to those records, but this will allow that visibility to be granted to them. It works very similar to the allow parent access, so similar sort of thing. The use case for this is you've probably been thinking about flags recently with the pastoral flags feature, and you might want to be wanting to share those pastoral flags with students. So perhaps you've got awards or merits and demerits in your pastoral flag system, and maybe you want to be able to share those with the students as well, so they got visibility and insight into those. And so allowing students access to the pastoral will also, of course, make those flags show up on there to them as well. Let's quickly just log in and run through some of the changes to the pastoral system. Firstly, we have in the report builder, if I go into the report builder, we've added a new ability to filter on actions. Last release, we implemented actions into pastoral records, so you could have follow-up actions that happen on a pastoral record. Now you can report on those actions. So if you want to get a report, for example, of all of the pastoral records that need to be referred to the head of house, and the action hasn't yet been completed, you would tick this box pending only and tick the referral to head of house, and that would build a report for you of all of the records that need to be actioned of that type. So great way to sort of build reports for action lists or to-do lists, where the person responsible for it can pull up the report and see all of the things that they need to action in one place. Also, a commonly requested feature for the pastoral report builder was on campus. So you'll now find campus is also available in the pastoral report. Of course, you need to be careful when using year levels and campuses together because they do overlap. You need to make sure that if you're selecting senior, you're selecting the year levels that are in senior, of course. Going back, we've also added into the type system the ability to set confidential templates. So previously we added the ability to update and maintain your general message templates. We've now extended that to the confidential templates as well. So you can also configure those confidential templates. So when you go into any of these types, say for example, a timeout, you'll be able to configure the confidential template that goes in behind the scenes for that. Going back to the pastoral care system, I'm just going to quickly create a record for Jana Reid here. And here, when we go down to the visibility, some of this visibility has already been set by the type defaults. But if I wanted to add students in here, I can add role, add student. And what this will do is make this visible to just the student that this record is for. No other students can see it. Only the student that the record's for will be able to see it, but that allows the student to interact with that pastoral record, or at least view it. If you want them to be able to interact, you can also allow students to read and post comments. So by enabling that flag, you'll let students, I guess, interact with the pastoral record as well. So all of that's configurable. While we're in the pastoral system, just quickly, we've also updated the way the comments work. So this is a bit more modern. It now has the sort of the hidden comment editor, and when you click into the field, it exposes the comment editor sort of box. So it's just a bit simpler. It doesn't take up as much real estate when you're just looking at the records, and it's a bit less distracting. So it just makes it a bit easier to sort of read the records when you're looking at them. All right, moving on quickly to the groups area. The groups area has been a big feature of Schoolbox for a long time, the ability to be in extracurricular groups and other interest areas within the school. And there's always been what we call free and moderated groups within Schoolbox. And there was a management page where you could join and leave groups. But we wanted to really bring that functionality up to sort of the modern standards and make it front and center within the experience. So the groups page, I've got it in a top nav, but it's also available in your side navigation. If you click on this side nav here as well, it'll take you to the same page. And here we're able to see my favorite groups, groups I'm in, groups I can join, and also groups pending me being approved. So groups I can join is an area where I can see all the groups in the system that I'm able to join. It's searchable, so I can type in a search and look for groups across the system. So if this list was really big and I was looking for a particular group, the search might help me find that group. But it's also here, I can just quickly join that. When I join that group, I now have two icons here, one to control whether I receive notifications and the other to control whether it's a favorite. Now, what does favoriting mean? Because we've always had the ability to mute notifications on and off. That's always been something that we've had, but favoriting is something that's new. Previously, these were actually a bit linked together, but favoriting allows me to control what appears in the side navigation. So you can see there by me ticking it on and off, the group appears in my side nav. So this allows me to control exactly what appears in my side navigation. So if I no longer want some of these groups to appear and I just want my favorite groups in here, I can actually tick what I like and further refine that. And of course, I can then control what I'm going to hear notifications from at the same time. So much simpler to sort of control and manage all of your group memberships, all of your links to your groups, and obviously it's a much prettier interface at the same time. There is an important notice about this area. Previously, groups I can join was basically all groups. It was all groups that were free or moderated. But we found that this was a bit difficult for schools to manage. And a lot of schools had actually disabled the functionality simply because it was too hard to manage. And the issue was that parents could join student groups and students could join parent groups, and there was no real control over who could join what group. From this update, you can only join a group if you already have read access by your role. So what that means is that you need to, when you're setting up a free to join group, you need to make sure that the people that you want to be able to join have their role permissions, have read access to that group. So just be aware of that slight change in the way the group joining happens. You may need to go through your groups and just check that they have the correct permissions on them to make sure that that functionality works as expected. But overall, that should improve the ability for you to control what groups people can join and prevent people from joining groups that they probably shouldn't. All right. We've also got, as part of this update, a new page called View All Files. Now, the story behind this was that we had view all files a while ago, and it used to take you to the resource browser. And a lot of people were unhappy that students would click on it and then get lost in the resource browser. So we decided the best solution to the problem was to remove the button altogether. And then, of course, we got another forum request to bring back the view all files button. So we brought the view all files button back, but rather than it now taking you to the resource browser, we've built a dedicated page that displays for listing your files. And this page is really nifty. It's got search built in, it's got filtering built in, but it's also got the ability to delete multiple files, which is another often requested feature that people would like, is the ability to quickly and easily delete multiple files on their page. And so that's now possible via this component. It's also a drag and drop area, so you can drag and drop files onto this area, and they will be uploaded directly into it as well. So it's a very powerful little page. It does everything that you would need a view all files page to do and more, but it's not the resource browser. So there's no risk of anyone being lost in the hierarchy of folders and files. It's simply just a list of files, which is sort of exactly what people, I think, wanted from a view all files button. All right, let's move on now to a new update to the assessments area. So as part of the assessments system, we're now logging all views of assessments. And what that means is that from a practical perspective, as a teacher, I can go look at the submission history for this particular student. And when I'm looking at that submission history, I can now see information about the fact that the student has viewed the feedback and when they viewed that feedback. And I can also see that the parent has also viewed the feedback. So I'm actually able to see both the student and the parent information as a teacher about when they're viewing their feedback. So it's a nice bit of feedback that we give to the teacher that that their information's been received on the other end. It's sort of like a read receipt, I guess, for emails. We probably will, before we go gold with this, also provide some affordance on this screen that that the feedback has been viewed. So we'll probably put into this screen here a bit of information about that as well. But this really does open up a lot of possibilities for future analytics and reporting to get insights into when students are viewing assessments, how long before they need to submit them, they're viewing them. There's a whole lot of really interesting things that we can do now that we have that data captured. But first off, with this update, we're now capturing it. So you'll have that information if you need it, and you'll be able to access it in the database as well if you would like to do your own reporting on it. While I'm on this page, I might just log in as a student, because one of the things we've done is rebuild the student submission workflow. And I'll just log in as Oshi here. So Moshi has some work due. Actually, log in as a student first. Oh, there it is. Just click straight through. So this work's due for the student, and I can create the submission. Now, previously, the student at this point would have submitted their work and then clicked a submit button and gone to another screen. Now, what we were finding was a lot of students were abandoning the process when their self-reflection was required, and it was leaving the submission in a draft state. They weren't clicking the final submit button that would convert it from a draft to a final submission. And so we've reworked this screen now so that everything appears on one screen and that there's not multiple clicks. So we're hopeful that that will actually reduce the amount of what we call submission abandonment, where the student sort of doesn't complete the workflow. So firstly, the student submits their file. Obviously, they attach the file and then they self-reflect on the rubric here. They can leave a comment and a grade, and then they submit for assessment. So it's one submit button now rather than being a two-step process. There's also some error checking and validation that you would have seen there that it's told me I actually haven't done anything yet. So I can't just do the self-reflection and skip through. I actually have to provide some work here. So I actually have to submit something as well. All right. One more thing with the assessments that we've updated, just logging back in as the teacher just quickly. Looking at assessments, we've now added the ability to include markdown into your rubrics. So markdown, for those that don't know, allows you to do styling sort of in a text box. Basically, it allows you to mark up your text with styling. You can do bold, italics, you can do underlines, you can do dot points, you can do links. And so it provides some nice sort of ability to improve the output of your rubrics. And so here you can see we've got an IB rubric here for PYP, and we've used it to bold particular keywords in the rubric. And I've also added some dot points here and also some links. So you could imagine providing links to students to access more information about what you mean by that term, or some more sort of exploration of that idea. You can link those things up through your rubric. So this is really for the power users who want to be able to sort of provide a more detailed rubric to the students. So it's a good example there. I should mention that it does work not only in the descriptors, but in the capabilities and in the indicators as well. But be aware, obviously, these appear in reports around the place, so use it sparingly. If you do too much of it, it's going to start to mess with some of the reports, especially if you do a lot of dot points or something like that in an indicator. It might not render as well as you would hope in some places. I mentioned earlier that there was some features that to support the Clipboard integration and make it much more useful. The first of those is we now have integrated the Fixtures system into our news system. Now, this is really useful if you want to send news to a sports team. And of course, it's disappeared for me. I'll just go turn that on. No, that's on. All right. So as I'm able to now audience a team in the Fixtures system. So what that allows me to do is pick a team and audience the news to all of the members in that team. And I can also send it to the parents of the team members as well. So this allows me to, for example, I might have a washout notice that I want to post to the team. I can post that news and it will go to all of the team members and also their parents, sending them a notification, letting them know of a washout. So it's a really great way to get communication out to your teams. And connecting that with the Clipboard integration, obviously you're importing all of those teams and all of those team members into Schoolbox automatically from Clipboard, and they'll appear here as well. Of course, that's also available as a searchable audience. So I can, of course, just search for basketball in here as well. And those, it was Outlaws, wasn't it? Was the team, the Outlaws team. And their parents as well. So they're all available in the quick search as well. While we're talking about the Fixtures system, we're actually able to add, and I'll just grab a random page. We'll go to the basketball page. We'll go to grade 1. I'm actually able to add fixtures onto a class page. And so from here, I drag the fixtures on, and then I can edit those fixtures and bring in the basketball team again, search for them, and that will link this page to that team and display the fixture for that team on that page. So you can use this to integrate your extracurricular group pages with your fixtures and display that information to the team that way as well. Obviously, there's a pretty big update. I'm running low on time, so just remind everyone that if you've got any questions, now's a good time to post them. We're going to be taking questions throughout the next 15 minutes or so. So please put any questions you have. Just some quick sort of housekeeping information. This is a rather large update. I did run through it really quickly then. There's actually a lot more that I probably haven't even shown yet. But just to give you an idea, because there is quite a lot of moving parts here, we do expect there to be about a 4-week beta period where we'll deploy this to your staging servers. We'll be testing it for about 4 weeks. And then so we expect the final gold release to be out I guess in sort of May, maybe the second week of May is where we're thinking at this stage. I should also point out that not all features that we've talked about today are in all plans. So some of these features will only be available in certain plans. Any of the LMS type functionality is obviously only in the Pro and Elite plans. The user APIs are in all plans, so the ability to manage your user data is available in all plans. I haven't even talked about the APIs yet. And the QR codes, of course, will be in Community Portal Plus and up. So just to give you a bit of an idea of where those features will land. All right, should I hand over now back to Dwayne? Do you have any particular questions you'd like me to answer?
Yeah, look, James, probably the first question, which you just hit on there. Can you point people in the direction of the API documents? Obviously, that's going to be quite helpful for those people that are gearing up, ready to use that new user management API.
Sure. So api.schoolbox.com.au is where you'll find our API documentation. It's just been updated this morning. It has the latest information about the user endpoints. So all the user endpoints, they were previously with the name in development, that's now been removed. As of version 22.0, the user endpoints will all be available. In here, we have the ability to obviously create users, delete users, update users, but also importantly, manage group memberships. So you can add and remove users from different groups. So all the endpoints are there for doing that as well. We will also update the documentation likely around by the end of the week with the assessments API as well. So you'll get a bit of understanding of how the assessments API will also work.
Awesome. So the first question, I'm going to lump two questions together, is from Ian Webster, and it's around the academic reports. So the first question is tied to, can we customize any of that template that we're generating in that PDF document? And then the second part of it is that going to be directly visible to parents? Is it something that they can generate themselves, or what's the sort of workflow from that generation point?
Yep, great question. So there's about 5 questions there. I'll try and remember them all. So firstly, in terms of customizing the PDF templates, at this stage, there will be very little customization. You're going to be able to do things like set your logo, set your introductory message, and then control what appears and what doesn't appear on the report. That's all that you're going to be able to control. So where this solution sort of ends is when you want to go into building your own custom template. Then you're going to need to look at a dedicated reporting solution for that. This is not going to replace, your own custom template. It is supposed to be a very generic solution to reporting. So yeah, it's not going to be the full sort of build your own report tool, should I say. What was the second half of that question, Dwayne?
Yeah. So in regards to workflow, obviously generating that, is it something that parents can generate themselves, or something that they can easily access in Schoolbox? What's the workflow?
Yeah. So initially, it's going to be a batch run via the admins, and we're imagining that'll be run twice a year. You know, you'll run it for semester 1 and then again for semester 2, done by the admins, and you will run it for all of the term. The question of whether it can be run by the parents on demand is a good question. There is potential for that option to be available. Certainly the technology is there and it wouldn't be difficult for us to implement. However, there is a question about the authenticity of the document and whether the run that you do as your batch is the properly moderated and controlled version, or whether the parent can just pull a live document out of Schoolbox at any one time. What I'm thinking at the moment is probably what will occur is that schools will do a batch run, make sure that it's all correct and valid, do their moderation process. And if everything's good, then they will commit that to the SIS, where it'll be stored in the SIS, and then parents will be able to extract it from the SIS as a PDF document from, in the case of Synergetic, it'll be from DocMan, and other systems also have a similar sort of report repository system where you could pull those reports from. So that's probably going to solve that issue. But down the track, if it's something that schools are interested in us building into Schoolbox, we're open to the fact that Schoolbox might be able to serve over those documents on demand and as required as well. We're certainly open to that idea.
Yeah, awesome. Going to the QR code realm, and it was a couple of questions from schools around, does this bypass their SSO or their single sign-on environments going down this route?
Yes, so QR codes definitely does bypass SSO. So the QR codes will only work in the Schoolbox context. They don't work in the context of SSO. So there is some downsides to that. Obviously, it means that the students aren't logged into your Google or other things that are connected to your SSO environment. They're only logged into Schoolbox. So you do need to obviously take that into consideration, that it does bypass the regular authentication systems and it goes directly into Schoolbox. So when we initially sort of looked at this problem, we actually thought that the identity providers themselves would solve this problem. So we thought that, the identity systems out there like Clever and Wonde even have a solution for this as well, would actually solve this for schools. But that hasn't actually happened. Most schools haven't got an identity system that comes with a QR code or an early learners login authentication system. Most schools have gone with identity systems that are designed for enterprise rather than for schools. And so that's where we decided that we probably needed to build a solution. But obviously our reach is only within Schoolbox. So we've built a solution that just works for Schoolbox.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that response. So looking at the groups world, how does force follow come into play when things like favoriting of groups takes place? Is there any linkage between those two functions?
So force follow controls the notifications. So you're unable to mute notifications if force follow is enabled, and that stays, but favorites is independent from force follow. So favorites is purely a user control. So you can favorite and unfavorite stuff even if you're forced to follow it, but you can't turn off the notifications.
Yeah, awesome. The view all files component has obviously been a fantastic improvement to interacting with individual files and files in bulk. But this question is tied to, what about from a resource browser perspective, the ability to drag and drop folders and move folders around? Is there anything on the radar that might sort of help schools in that world?
There very much is. We're actually rebuilding the resource browser as we speak. It's not going to make this release, but there is work underway to update the resource browser and modernize it. Certainly, there's a lot of things that we're keen to see happen in the resource browser, specifically deleting multiple files, and there's a whole list of other things. So it's not going to be this release, but look out for it in a future release.
Yeah, awesome. The last question I've got here is around Clipboard and Digistorm, and obviously the new news audiencing associated with Fixtures. So the question is, how will the link with the Fixtures link how will it allow news comments, member comments, and notifications to flow between Digistorm and Schoolbox? And is there a way of this providing two-way communication?
Oh, difficult question. So at the moment, there's there's a couple of things going on here. So firstly, notifications. Notifications are basically a fire and forget sort of exercise. So doing two-way communication with them is very difficult. It is possible, but it is quite challenging. And I don't think we'll ever see notifications going two ways. But one thing that we are working with Digistorm on at the moment is using our news API. And once they start using our news API for news, we'll be able to track the read of the news by the user. So when they request to read a news article via the news API, we will register that as the article being read by that user. And that will effectively allow us to track the fact that the user has visited the news article. So it's a complicated question, but there is solutions. We are working through some of those problems and those solutions. There's a lot of things that we've done over the last 2 years to get there, and we're getting pretty close now to be able to sort of close that gap with a lot of those things.
Yeah, awesome. Well, look, James, that's all of the questions that I've got here. We'll give a couple of seconds to see if anyone else throws anything in the realm. But look, it's been absolutely fantastic looking through the product, seeing what is coming out in 22.0. In regards to beta, when are we hoping that to roll out to staging servers?
I'm expecting beta to be out by the end of the week, but obviously we've got a fair bit of testing to do between now and then to make sure that it's fine for the fleet. There's a few new architectural elements that we haven't rolled out before. Behind the scenes, interestingly, with the new academic report functionality, we are having to build a new engine for running background tasks because the academic report will take a long time to generate. We're thinking it'll take about 5 to 10 minutes to build a report for a year level. And we need a system that will be able to run for a long period of time and execute that big job. So there's some work there to roll that out and set that up. That's one of the reasons I couldn't demo it today. So we've still got to work out some things with that, but hopefully all those things go smoothly and we should have it out by the end of the week.
Awesome. Look, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining in this afternoon. Hopefully this is giving you some insights to the new features rolling out in version 22 of Schoolbox. James, thanks again for your time and running us all through. And we look forward to see you all around the grounds.
Pleasure. Thank you, everyone.
No worries. See you later all.